Hello, welcome to the morning news. Our top stories in Mexico. Midterm elections were plagued with violence around the country, where at least 9 candidates were killed during the campaign period and another 20 were forced out of the race through threats and acts of intimidation.
In total, 21 people directly related to the elections were killed. Most of the unrest was registered in Oaxaca and Guerrero. Electoral authorities were forced to cancel elections in about 600 polling stations. The voting finally came to an end, and according to official preliminary results, abstentionism was over 50% across the country. Officials appeared to be satisfied with the results.
The federal election day has ended in the entire country. The main piece of information today is that citizens voted to influence the future of our nation.
President Enrique Peña Nieto and his wife Angelica Rivera cast their vote in Mexico City. When polling stations closed, Peña Nieto briefly addressed the nation, saying citizens had expressed their political will for the path of institutions. The president and various of his top ministers faced a corruption scandal involving the acquisition of properties in dubious circumstances. Peña Nieto said that despite calls to boycott the elections, millions turned out to vote.
The mandate that citizens have given all of the authorities is to reject violence and intolerance.
The midterm elections were sure to be a test for the president and his ruling PRI party. They won a working majority in the lower house of Congress, along with their political allies. After 62% of the votes were counted, the PRI and its allies, the Green Party and the National Alliance Party, were expected to hold about 250 of the 500 seats in the lower house. The right-wing PAN party would control about 160, the leftist PRD 50, while the new Morena party surfaced as the fourth power with about 45 seats. Possibly the most important result of Sunday's elections was the historic victory of independent governor, candidate for Nuevo León, Jaime Rodríguez, also known as El Bronco, due to his rough attitude and his hardline stance against drug trafficking. He survived 2 attempts against his life by Los Zetas drug cartel members in 2011. His victory breaks with the two-party system in the northern border state, where the PRI has governed for all but 6 years since 1929. When proclaiming his triumph, he warned that those who robbed from the state would be jailed.
Our correspondent Clayton Khan was reporting live from Oaxaca, one of the 4 hotspots named by the government in Mexico due to pre-electoral violence. Here is the story.
Throughout Friday and Saturday, thousands of federal police and the military were deployed to Mexico's southern states of Guerrero, Chiapas, Michoacán, and Oaxaca, where protests continue against the political class, calling for a boycott of the elections.
The federal government placed in action an operation with the objective to guarantee the best conditions for the citizens to exercise the right to vote.
Yet here in the state of Oaxaca, dissident teachers of the 75,000-strong Section 22 of the National Teachers Union, who have been on strike since Monday with blockades at the offices of the state's 11 electoral districts, affirm that the military presence is anything but democratic.
It seems to us that the government has always said the armed forces, the military forces, are to defend the people. With this action, it shows that is totally false.
Out of the state's 570 municipalities, 418 operate under the constitutionally recognized uses and customs or indigenous self-governance, prompting much of the working class and farm worker population to express distrust of the electoral process.
The elections are not important because they don't help us. Actually, it's the opposite. They actually harm us, because they come to take up our time when we are very busy with our work in the field, or with the Mother Earth, who gives us food. The parties only come to disturb us.
Recent polls leading up to these midterm elections expose that more than 65% of Mexico's population views the participating parties as not having legitimacy. Clayton Khan, Telesur, Oaxaca City.
The Mexican state of Guerrero has again been hit by violence. 16 people were killed in the first shootout between a vigilante group and a former members that were expelled due to their alleged links to the Jalisco New Generation drug cartel. The fighting broke out in the municipality of Acapulco. Police have not made any arrests, and the state's attorney general's office said they could not find the bodies, arguing that in many cases they are taken away from the scene by the gunmen themselves. Guerrero has the highest homicide rate in Mexico, followed by Sinaloa. Ecuador's President Rafael Correa announced radical plans to support asylum seekers and stateless people. He said that in the South American country, no migrant would be considered illegal. His socialist government has proposed a new law to make all migrants illegal in Ecuador. The new legislation will cover all areas of migration, as well as visas, passports, and identity documents for foreigners. Hundreds of thousands of revelers poured into the streets in Brazil to celebrate the 19th Sao Paulo Gay Pride Parade. Organizers said the event, which draws massive crowds from all over the country, is the largest gay pride parade in the world. This year's theme was "I was born this way, I grew up this way, I'm always going to be this way, respect me," as activists demanded the rights for the lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender community. They also celebrated the advancement of equal marriage rights in Brazil and other countries.
It is our life experience, our world, our respect, and our triumphs around the world with one another.
In Argentina, 40 passengers were injured after two trains crashed in the outskirts of Buenos Aires. Firefighters and other emergency officials quickly responded to the area and were able to assess all passengers off the train. Argentine Secretary of Security Sergio Berni visited the crash site and said he was satisfied with the efforts of first responders. The accident involved a locomotive and a train that was leaving the station. To our world news roundup.
Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan and his Justice and Development Party suffered their biggest setback since 2002. They faced a loss of majority in the parliament with the rise of pro-Kurdish People's Democratic Party. Erdogan's ambition to switch Turkey from a parliamentary to a presidential system has been frustrated, as the change would have required a two-thirds majority in the parliament. He has called on an emergency meeting seeking to form a coalition government, but if he fails to do so within 45 days, early elections will be called.
It is important that democracy has been improved in a multi-party system one way or another in the past 5 years. That is one of the best results of yesterday's election.
Day 2 of the G7 summit is underway in Germany. The meeting is centering on climate talks and terrorism. During the first day, UK Prime Minister David Cameron announced more troops will be sent to Iraq to train troops to fight the Islamic State group. The Ukraine crisis, Greece's debt issue, also took the center floor during the first day of talks, as well as free trade under the Trans-Pacific Partnership Accord. German Chancellor Angela Merkel called on members to contribute to a fund for a poor country suffering the worst effects of climate change. In the United States, police racial brutality has once again hit the spotlight. A white police officer in McKinney, Texas, was caught on video as he went on a rampage against black teens. He violently manhandled a young black girl before pulling his gun on two black boys. Police could be seen in the footage harassing black youth while completely ignoring many white teens that were at the pool party they were trying to disperse. Officer Eli Casable has been suspended from his post after the video went viral on YouTube. The Saudi-led airstrikes killed at least 20 civilians and 24 other people during a raid against the raid on the main headquarters of the Yemeni army held by Houthi rebel allies in Sana'a. Local reports said that at least 100 people were also injured in the attacks, which destroyed nearby homes. Women and children were among the victims. Saudi-led forces have pounded Yemen since March 26, killing 2,300 people, including at least 1,000 civilians.
We were sleeping on the third floor, and suddenly we heard the plane overhead, and the first missile struck in one corner of the compound. Then the plane turned and hit the southern edge of the compound, and then turned again and struck in the center of the compound.
Over the weekend, an international rescue fleet rescued almost 6,000 migrants from rickety boats, making the dangerous sea journey from North Africa to Europe, Italy's Coast Guard reported. The United Nations has said that the tide of migrants and refugees risking their lives at sea is on the rise this year. So far in 2015, about 1,800 have drowned. 800 died in a single shipwreck in April. The migrants are fleeing poverty and violence in their countries of origin.
In sports, we continue with our coverage of the FIFA corruption scandal. New evidence has surfaced that providing that former FIFA Vice President Jack Warner did in fact receive millions in bribes. Warner used the money to pay his credit card balances and launder the millions through a supermarket chain in his home country, Trinidad and Tobago. The Trinidadian Minister of Justice, Prakash Ramadan, asked Warner to go to the U.S. to face trial and save the reputation of his country.
If you love Trinidad and Tobago, I ask you, go to your trial so that we will hear what the facts are and not what you say they are.
The FBI has confirmed that it will extend its FIFA investigation of bribery to include how Russia and Qatar gained hosting rights for 2018 and 2022, respectively. Domenico Scala, the independent chairperson of FIFA's Audit and Compliance Committee, said that if it is confirmed that they gained those rights through bribes, they would lose their hosting rights. Both Russia and Qatar have denied any wrongdoing and have said nothing could stand in the way of them holding the World Cup. More on these on our website, telesurtv.net/English. Thank you for watching and have a good day.